when we moved into that house, somebody had already lived there, and they didn't qualify. It was on
No, they didn't live there. They'd signed up for it.
and they didn't qualify for it. Didn't they live there? Because they came in and painted it again, and I thought, redid it.
No.
Anyway, it was really expensive. It was 1% interest, and we paid $13,500 for it. Wasn't it 13,500?
11.5.
11,500?
At Wilma, they paid 13 for theirs, but we paid 11.5. And there were no carpets in the house, but we had hardwood floors, beautiful hardwood floors, and I just think about it now, how everybody didn't want to have hardwood floors, they wanted to have carpet laid.
Well, with the little kids, it was kind of...
Well, but it just wasn't the fashion either.
Yeah.
Nobody, everyone thought they had to have wall-to-wall carpet. But now the style has changed and you want your beautiful hardwood floors to show. But anyway, we saved our money, and the first carpet we got was by saving rags, and we gathered up rags and we sent them to this company, and they made the carpet for us, if you can believe.
They made the carpet out of the rags?
I don't know, no, it wasn't out of the rags, but that was payment if you got them.
I think they used them in other carpets or whatever, but because they wouldn't have time to make our carpet with what we sent them. But anyway, it was they were soft and they were acceptable.
We were so
we were
happy farm. And I don't know whether I told you about Scott, did I? Spilling the McCurrick home.
Yeah, I think we got it.
But then when Kelly was 3 years old, Janelle was born. And oh my goodness, she loved that baby so much that she would push her buggy around, and she was always covering her up with blankets. And I thought she was going to smother her. She just loved that baby so much, and she would rock her in the buggy, push it back and forth, and she'd want to take her outside and go for a buggy ride. So I really had to watch Kelly because I was so afraid she was going to dump the baby. She was like a live doll to her. She was having so much fun with her.
She was really too young to babysit.
Yes, I think so.
But it would have been nice if she could have.
But anyway, it was cute to see the relationship and how she loved that baby. And then I remember Kelly falling and breaking her collarbone, and then they would take an ace bandage and make a butterfly type thing all around. They didn't put any cast, but they did put this butterfly type of the way they bandaged her.
How did she break it?
Well, she fell off from a chair. It's so crazy. And then the little neighbor girl, just 2 doors down, what was her name? Was it Diane?
I think it was.
I think it was Diane. And she fell in her car. Mother slammed on the brakes and she fell forward and broke her collarbone. And they were both the same age. And they used to walk around and look at each other, both having the same kind of bandage on. But Kelly was such a little angel. I took her to the doctor and never whimpered, cried, and the nurse just took care of her. And I remember the nurse saying, boy, she is a chubby little girl, and I was insulted. She wasn't chubby, she was just cute. But she meant it as a compliment, and she was a healthy baby. But she remarked about, my gosh, I've never seen such a nice little girl. She just didn't cry or anything to let the doctor do what he needed to do, and they were really bragging on her. And so, let's see, when Janelle, we had a mama kitten when Janelle was about 2 years old. Oh, she loved those little kittens, and she'd take them and hold them by the neck or by the tail and hang them up, and those kitties were meowing, and their brothers and sisters were all saying, "She's gonna kill our kitties, she's gonna kill our little kitties." But so I would get them away from her, and we'd put out some milk for them. It's in, honey, it's in there. They got it, I guess. But we'd set out a little bowl of milk for the kittens and trying to teach them to drink the milk rather than nursing from their mama cat. And so we would put their little face down in it, and they'd come up, you know. So Janelle would try to do that. She'd take them and poke them in the milk. And all the older kids were so afraid that she was going to kill those little kittens. But they followed her everywhere she went, remember?
Yeah, nice. Right in a row, followed her everywhere she
Yeah,
went.
they seemed to like her. They didn't bother those cats. They thought she was really their friend, I guess. Then we had ducks in the backyard. We had guinea pigs in the backyard. You name it, we had it. Cats. What else did we have back there?
Well, we had a dog, and I know
Pigeons.
Indians.
Yeah, pigeons.
Pigeons, yeah.
When Tim came along. But that was a few years later, but it seemed like every little animal there was to have, we had, except rats. But,
We even had fleas.
yeah.
Janelle found a stray cat. She brought it home, and it was just loaded with fleas. We had fleas all over the house, and so
And I remember you putting on white socks because they were jumping up on you.
so what else would you like to know?
Well, so you mentioned Kelly being born, and what's your early memories
Janelle.
of Janelle?
Yeah, well, that's what I was
Oh,
saying. That
okay.
when Janelle was born, Kelly really mothered her.
Oh,
She just
okay.
loved that little baby. And
And Julie was born.
yeah,
About
Julie
the-
was born just 2 months before Janelle. And so they used to play together a lot. And you were great for taking movies, remember?
Got a lot of movies. I always take my camera to the hospital.
Yeah.
Get the early ones.
Yeah.
She made me wait until they cleaned them up, but
Well, not me. It was in those days, the father couldn't come in and watch the delivery. Now, doctors said, no, we can't be bothered with the dads. They might pass out on us. We got to take care of the women. So you didn't see them till after they were born.
but I was at the hospital.
Oh,
I
definitely.
could see them in the nursery.
Yeah.
Well, are we talking about the birth of our kids, or?
Kelly and Janelle, they were all born, all of our kids, no, not all of them. Scott and Greg and Kelly were all born at Quintard Hospital downtown. Wasn't that on A Street?
No,
You remember the name of the street?
no, I don't remember the name of the street. It
It's
wasn't
not
easy.
there anymore, that
No.
hospital. But then Janelle was born at Grossmont Hospital, and Tim was born at College Hospital.
So, I think that's everybody. We got them here.
Well, what did the neighbors say when you brought Tim home?
Oh, they thought we'd lost our mind. You know, everybody on our street just had one or two, and when we brought the fifth one home, they thought, good heavens, these Mormons. But all the little kids in the neighborhood just came running to the car when I came home with you, and they all wanted to see the baby, and the kids were just really excited about it, and so we made a big hit on the block with all our kids. But
That's the most exciting thing that ever happened on the block.
yeah, it was.
Well, tell us about all the other people that you raised,
Oh, yeah.
or at least for a short time.
Yeah, we did have a few strays at our place. Well, during the time we were living there, President Kimball had asked families if they could take in a little Indian child and give them a chance to get a good education. And so we asked him if he'd like to have a little Indian brother come and stay with us, and he was all for it. And till after he came. And his big brothers said, oh, that boy is so spoiled that Dad and Mom even get him a real live Indian to play with.
So they could play cowboys and
Cowboy
Indians.
and Indians. But he was a handful, that little guy. His name was Falcon Honga. And he was a Wallapai Indian. And he came from Peach Springs, Arizona. That was the reservation.
I don't think he'd ever had a bath, because I know you put him in the
No.
bathtub. He'd had a lot of that Indian dirt on him.
His hair was solid black, like all little Indians, but it had so much dirt in it and dust that he looked gray. And so we thought, we've got to give this boy a bath. And so I took him in the bathroom, filled up the tub, and boy, there was no way. I guess he'd never seen a bathtub. And so I said, Timmy, you come in and you take a bath with him, and then he'll take a bath. So Tim kept calling me and saying, he won't get in the bathtub, he won't get in the bathtub. So I went in there and practically forced him into the bathtub, and we shampooed his hair, and that was a screaming good time, I'm telling you. But man, he looked pretty cute when we got through with him. He was nice and clean. And it's funny, the social workers told us they took him up to church and bathed him, but I don't think so.
I don't think they did a very
Making
good
up
job.
stories.
They didn't get him very clean. So anyway, that was really funny. We got him cleaned up, and one day we heard, I don't know, he was a tough little character, and he'd come up to Tim and just sock him in the stomach and just about knocked him out. And I said, Falcon, we don't do that. We don't hit like that. And he'd just laugh, and pretty soon I'd hear him doing it again. So Tim grabbed him and threw him on the carpet and sat on him. And Tim was bigger than him. Remember what
Yeah.
Tim yelled, oh, and what was it Falcon said to him?
He says, I'm coming back every year until I graduate from high school.
Yeah, until I'm 18. And Tim, I was in the kitchen, and Tim yelled out, is that right, Mom? Is he gonna come back until he's 18 years old?
And you go,
Yeah, and then Falcon had just laughed, but Tim was bigger than him, and boy, he had him pinned to the floor. That's when Tim learned to wrestle, I guess. He started.
But it was interesting, some of the things. Since he'd been on a reservation, he'd never been on roller skates. He never talked on a telephone. And so when the phone would ring, man, he'd run to the phone. He always wanted to
Oh,
answer
yeah,
the phone.
that was so funny. He was really fascinated with the phone.
And didn't he turn out to be a really good baseball player?
Yes, he loved ball. He'd learned to play ball on the reservation. So all the kids at school were fascinated with him because he was a real Indian and nobody had ever seen an Indian. And so he had a bunch of little boys following him everywhere he went, and he could play good ball. He was quite a pitcher.
Well, we can finish the story about Falcon. His little brother went back to Peach Springs. In the summertime, they always went back to the reservation. So his brother called him and said,
His older brother.
you ought to come back to Peach Springs because we have a baseball team here and you would be the best, you would be the main pitcher. So but he wanted to stay and play Little League in San Diego, but they didn't play on, they played on, Pony League, and they didn't, they played on Sunday. And so he said, no, you can't be on the Pony League because they play on Sunday. We don't play on Sunday. So he kept begging us to go back to Peach Springs. He said, you know, if you go back to Peach Springs, you can't come back. Once you leave the program, you can't come back. And so,
And Janelle was ready for him to go back
Yeah.
because he was always playing like he had a knife and he was going to get her.
I think Tim was more ready than I was.
Yeah, I think Tim was ready to
He
ship
didn't
him
bother me
out.
as much as he bothered you.
so I went to work at the fire station, and I was in Alley Gardens at the station. And well, you got the phone call, so you can tell them what you did.
Yeah, I had put the boys in bed, took them in, they had twin beds, and I tucked them in, helped them with their prayers, and that was another thing. You couldn't get him to pray on his own. You'd always have to say a line, and he'd say a line, and I'd say a line, he'd say a line, and I kept telling him, you can do it, but he'd just laugh. And so anyway, I tucked him in bed, and I went in the other room and was sewing. Dad was at the fire station. I get a call on the telephone that the neighbor was saying, Falcon just drove down the street in Scott's little yellow car. I said, no, he's in his bed. That wasn't him. Oh, yeah, that was him. It
See,
was
how
about
old was
11
he?
o'clock at night. He was about 11.
Was he that
And
old?
Janelle was learning how to drive, and every time we'd go someplace, he'd say, I could drive that car. I could drive as good as her. And let me drive. And I said, you're not old enough to drive. But anyway,
He was the same age as Tim, right?
yeah.
Same, so he must have been at least 12 if I was learning how to drive. So he had to be at least 12, because you learn to drive when you're 15.
Yeah, maybe so. So I went in the bedroom and looked in there, and he'd put a pillow under the covers, made it look like he was in there. And I go over there, and he's not in there, and the window's open, and he's gone. So I'm about ready to call Dad at the fire station, and she called back and he said, he just parked the car down here by our house. And so I would go out looking for him, and he's in the backyard, and I said, Falcon? And he wouldn't answer me, and it was scary as heck. It was dark, and I kept saying, Falcon, you better get in this house. And he doesn't come, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go call Dad, and you're